Once upon a time, in a small town in the United States, there was a grand old mansion that had been abandoned for many years. The locals whispered that the house was haunted by the ghost of a woman who had died a tragic death many years ago. Her name was Sarah, and she was said to wander the halls of the mansion, searching for her lost love. The townspeople warned travelers and visitors to stay away from the mansion, for they feared that Sarah's ghost would bring them harm. But one day, a young couple visiting the town decided to explore the old mansion. They were skeptical of the ghost stories, and thought it would be an exciting adventure. As they entered the mansion, they were greeted by a musty smell and the sound of creaking floorboards. They walked through the halls, admiring the old paintings and antique furniture. Suddenly, they heard a ghostly wail, and they froze in fear. But then, they heard a soft voice calling out to them, and they followed the sound to a room at the end of the hallway. There, they found Sarah's ghost, and she told them her story. She explained that she had been in love with a young man who lived in the town, but her father forbade her from seeing him. He wanted her to marry a wealthy man, but Sarah refused. One night, she snuck out of the mansion to be with her true love, but on her way back, she was ambushed by bandits and killed. Sarah's ghost explained that she was unable to move on from this world because she could not find her love. She asked the young couple to help her find her lost love, and bring her peace. The couple agreed to help, and they set out to find the young man who Sarah had loved. After searching the town, they finally found an old man who told them that the young man Sarah had loved had died many years ago. The couple returned to the mansion and told Sarah what they had learned. Sarah's ghost was filled with sadness, but she was also grateful to the couple for their help. She finally found peace, and her ghost was never seen again. From that day forward, the mansion was no longer considered haunted, and travelers and visitors were no longer afraid to go near it. The young couple went on to live long and happy lives, and they often told the story of Sarah and her lost love to anyone who would listen. But the story didn't end there. Many years later, a group of teenagers in the town heard about the ghost of Sarah and decided to investigate. They broke into the mansion one night, hoping to find evidence of her ghostly presence. As they explored the mansion, they found themselves separated from each other. One by one, they each encountered Sarah's ghost, who appeared to them as a beautiful young woman dressed in a flowing white dress. Sarah's ghost told each of them a different part of her story, and asked for their help in finding her lost love. The teenagers were frightened, but they were also curious, and they agreed to help Sarah. They searched through old records and talked to the town's oldest residents, hoping to find any information about the young man Sarah had loved. Finally, they discovered that the young man's grave was located in a nearby cemetery. They rushed to the cemetery, and when they arrived, they found Sarah's ghost standing beside the grave. She thanked the teenagers for their help, and finally found the peace she had been searching for. But the teenagers soon realized that they were not alone in the cemetery. They heard a strange sound, like the beating of wings, and when they looked up, they saw a ghostly figure flying above them. It was the ghost of the young man Sarah had loved, and he had come to find her. The two ghosts embraced each other, and the teenagers watched in awe as they disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. From that day forward, the mansion and the cemetery were considered to be haunted by the ghostly couple, and the story of Sarah and her lost love continued to be told for generations to come. However, the peacefulness was short-lived. The teenagers who had helped Sarah soon began to experience strange and terrifying events. They would hear ghostly whispers in the dead of night, and they would see ghostly figures appearing and disappearing before their very eyes. One night, as they were walking home from a party, they felt a cold wind blow past them, and they heard the sound of ghostly laughter. Suddenly, they found themselves surrounded by the ghostly figures of Sarah and the young man she had loved. The teenagers tried to run, but they were paralyzed with fear. The ghostly figures advanced on them, their eyes filled with anger and hatred. The teenagers realized that they had made a terrible mistake by interfering in the affairs of the dead. Just as the ghosts were about to attack, The teenagers heard a voice calling out to them. It was the voice of Sarah, but it was different from the soft and gentle voice they had heard before. It was a voice filled with rage and fury, and it warned the teenagers to leave the mansion and never return. The teenagers finally broke free from their fear and ran as fast as they could. When they reached the safety of their homes, they looked back and saw the mansion burning, consumed by a ghostly fire. They knew that they had narrowly escaped a terrible fate, and they never spoke of the haunted mansion or Sarah's ghost again. The mansion burned to the ground, and the town was left with only a legend of a tragic love story and the horrors that surrounded it. To this day, people say that on quiet nights, they can still hear the ghostly laughter and the beating of wings coming from the remains of the mansion, and they warn others to stay away. Years went by, and the story of Sarah and the haunted mansion became just another legend, a tale told to scare children on dark nights. But one day, a young couple moved into the town, and they were not afraid of legends or ghost stories. They had heard of the mansion and the story of Sarah's ghost, but they didn't believe in such things. They thought it would be the perfect place to start their new life together. However, strange things began to happen as soon as they moved into the mansion. They would hear whispers in the night, and they would see ghostly figures appearing and disappearing in the shadows. The young woman became increasingly scared, but her husband refused to leave the mansion. He was determined to prove that there was no such thing as ghosts. One night, as the young woman was lying in bed, she heard a noise coming from the attic. She was terrified, but she summoned the courage to go and investigate. When she opened the attic door, she saw Sarah's ghost standing before her, a look of anger and hatred in her eyes. The young woman screamed and ran from the mansion, never to return. Her husband was never seen or heard from again. Some say that he was taken by Sarah's ghost, while others believe that he was consumed by the ghostly fire that burned the mansion so many years before. To this day, the mansion remains abandoned, and people say that on quiet nights, they can still hear the ghostly whispers and the sound of footsteps coming from the mansion. And they wonder if the young man's spirit is still trapped inside, forever searching for the peace that has eluded him for so long. Thank you. Subscribe our channel for more stories. Stay connected.